Support for 100 Watts and a Wire is brought to you by 100wattsandawire.com. To subscribe to the show, simply click the RSS feed or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. When you visit, apply for your free 100 Watts ID and learn how you can become a sustaining member. Click the donate page and pick the option that works best for you. We've got a traveling toolkit, 100 Watts and a Wire gear, and activity days with prizes. That's 100wattsandawire.com. And ICOM. Get out and get active with ICOM's new IC705 and its optional multifunction backpack. And Biono Power, offering the best performance lithium iron phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bionopower.com. That's BIOENNOPOWER.com. Or contact dealers nationwide.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Oh, hey there, how you doing? It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. What's new with you? Anything going on in the world, you know? You better get your coffee and sit down. Just sit down. Sit down! Okay. I'm about to take a sip of this really strong hot coffee because I think we need it. Hold on. Go on now. You know, we've been talking about this since the end of January. It's COVID-19. In our last episode, we said, look, don't panic. Stay focused, don't panic. And here we are. I didn't get to talk about my prediction of a few weeks ago. And the fellows were like, nah, man, nah. And it wasn't that they were downplaying this thing, which I think is a problem. They thought, there's, 2 months, 2.5 months, I don't know, things will clear up. We'll get things. And then next thing you know, we're all really paying attention to this thing. And then on Sunday, it drops. That, they decided on March 15th that it was time to shut it down. The Dayton Hamvention was indeed canceled because of a pandemic. It's supposed to be canceled, y'all. Come on now. I'm not surprised that some people are like, what? Come on. Oh, sissy. What the? It's kind of that attitude coming out. It's almost like a couple of layers of attitude about it. Yeah, it's a bummer. But are you paying attention? Are you paying attention to what happened in China, in Italy, in Spain, and now what's happening and how fast things are moving here in our country? Are you paying attention? Have you also been paying attention to the average age of the Dayton Hamvention audience? The participants, the people who go there. Okay? At this point in time, which is very early, this is the age group that is being most affected right now. That's going to change. It's going to start to dip back. I hear people talking about the media. Now, I've stopped talking. Well, I'm still talking, and then in some part, I am part of the, at least the amateur radio world ham media something thingy. I don't know. I'm just a guy. But a few weeks back, I noticed that there was some more talking about the virus. And I was like, well, it took you long enough. And it was because they could add some sort of political spin to it. And so I figure that most people who are doing the talking head type stuff on television news are grabbing their information like I do from sources that they trust. And diversify your sources. Don't just sit there and watch one network, whether it's MSNBC or it's Fox News. Read. Get back and read things. Read the World Health Organization, the WHO. Read the CDC, who fell slightly behind here. They're still professionals. They're scientists, they're doctors. They're going to tell you how it's been handled in the past, whether whatever. Everything has room to grow, so I can't get stuck in my head that, You know, when we had this one going on, this guy didn't do a damn thing. Stop it. And then this one is like, oh, he ain't doing nothing. Look, and then we get upset that we actually have to do something because moves are being made. A few weeks back, I told the fellas, look, they're going to cancel it by mid-May, and I still think it could happen even sooner. Was that a bright idea that just went off in my head? It could happen even sooner. That is to say that they would potentially shut down travel, domestic travel in our country, and say, stop moving. Stop moving, stop gathering. Right now we're in a, stop. Just last week it was, audiences and crowds of 250 people tops, okay? And then as of a couple days later, because this thing is doubling every seems to be 4 to 6 days, it's down to 50. Now, in my workplace, they're talking about plans. Major rock concerts. Pearl Jam canceled the first leg of their tour, and this was on the front end because, of course, they're in the epicenter here in our country, in Washington, in Seattle. But now, look, New York. Here comes New York. They're probably going to shut down travel by mid-May, if not sooner. I predict now, sooner. They're going to say, look, and if you're not listening to curfews, here comes the National Guard. I think we're in a position where we have to do what we have to do right now. And Dayton Hamvention, although it is something that you've probably started planning for back in 2019, you've got your rooms, you've got your things, you're booked, your travel's booked. It sucks. I get it. It totally sucks. You got to deal with it. Think about it. Think about the clientele, the people who come there and visit and spend money, walk around. The camaraderie. This is a bummer, man. But it's a bummer on many different fronts, and I think they were 100% correct. I would have done it 3 weeks ago, and people would have been like, what? You sissy pants? I mean, you might be able to call me a sissy pants for other reasons. I'm not going to wrestle a shark or a bear. That make me a sissy? I'm not going to try to wrestle COVID-19 either. But look, it wasn't my decision. The authorities in the state of Ohio said, look, we're going to shut down restaurants and bars. St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow. So it's a whole new world. We're dealing with things. We're going to get through it together, but it's going to be bumpy for a while, man. They're talking about CDC now finally catching up, saying, look, we're looking at about 8 weeks right now of this. And we have the benefit of studying China, and we have the benefit of studying Spain and Italy. The amount of beds, So I'm just here to check in with you to make sure that you're doing okay. Our Sunday evening nets, we just did one, and the motif there is that we're all just checking in to see if everybody's doing okay. How are you thinking? Are you all right? You thinking all right? Because it's different. We got to change, and people don't like change. And then the Dayton announcement comes down, and it's like, oh, Lord. And then there you got some division there as well. Think about it. Be safe. Stay wise. Stay focused. But don't panic. I'll come back and tell you a little bit of stuff that I've been doing out in the field. Next.
When in doubt, hang 'em high. This is 100 watts and a wire.
The ICOM 705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tip of your fingers. But it's in a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo, or just over 2 pounds. With RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. It's got that large 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall. And the perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack. It's the LC192. It has a special compartment for the IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations, or just a day in the park. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios.
Now come on, boys. Where's your spirit? I don't hear no singing.
QRO to the people. This is 100 watts and a wire.
Now, I've got to tell you a little bit of a secret here. It made things interesting when I returned. I went to New York from March 5th through the 9th. And when I came back to work, all this had gotten deeper. I mean, when I got to New York, it was, and it was fun because I thought, what radio will I take? And I ended up taking an HT, but I was on the 29th floor of a hotel. And, I picked up a couple of guys speaking Spanish, and I regretted not paying attention more sophomore year of high school when we had that semester of Spanish back in Baltimore, Cardinal Gibbons High School. Yeah, it no longer exists, sadly. But it was all I could hear anyway, and I was so excited, and I packed it up, and it really wasn't an issue. I thought the battery might be a thing. I tried to separate. It ended up not even being a deal. I basically put it in like a, like a little satchel. Put it in like a little bag that pulled the strings. It's like you'd mine for gold. I don't know what they're called, man. It's a little bag, and another little radio piece I had in a microphone container. Just a zipper, pleathery type of thing. Didn't even take it out of there. I did have to put it in the basket, and I was like, okay, cool. No problems with an HT ever in my life while traveling on planes. But look, it's a different time. And, I labored with my wife. We talked to an epidemiologist. We were going through the process because, we're taking my kids there for the first time. And we had a blast, man. There were 25 cases in the whole state of New York at the time. The next morning, it had doubled. And by the time we left, they hit that threshold of 100. And I came back to work, and we did everything. I mean, my skin was just dry. The kids were great. We were really being vigilant with hand washing and all the things that were advised. New York, for me, I haven't been to many other cities that compare to New York City. I like the people. The sports teams, no. But look, New York City is really exciting. Anyway, we spent the time there. I came back, and I thought my work, they put out a memo. What are they going to be doing, the plans and that sort of thing. And they wanted to know who traveled, who had been traveling, who planned the travel, were suspending travel up until this point, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I expect that as each day goes by, I'm getting closer to working from home, But they asked, have you traveled to any of these places? And it was, yep, I sure did. And I thought, you know what? I would probably quarantine me. I would have asked me to go ahead. And we had a professional development session. And one of my coworkers moved a chair away, and I was like, this is really real. This is something, man. It's really something. It's affected. And out here in Missouri at the time, we had 2. I think we're at 5 now. And a couple maybe in a nearby county. So I really thought they would send me. They didn't. They didn't send me home. No one sent me out. I wasn't feeling bad. I'm not carrying a fever or carrying any symptoms that I know of at this point. But I'm still within, as I record this, I'm still within a week of that period where they quarantine you. And I would have quarantined me. And part of me just says, one, you asked. You asked me if I had traveled, and I told you I did. I did. So what was the point of asking if you weren't going to do it? They didn't, but I'm like, okay, I'm not judging them. I'm just thinking, still feel fine. But, I'm about a week out before I could be, I guess, cleared upon the marker they decide today. Anyway, had a blast in New York. It definitely had a different feel. And as we got closer to coming home, each passing day, the numbers were growing around the world, and certainly in New York. The airports, it was a different feel. Not everybody was wearing masks. But look, I think in O'Hare, going through customs over this weekend, 1 week after I returned from New York, it seems like the airlines are clogged up. People are backed up like an old toilet. It's bad, man. People are freaking out. Speaking of old toilets, people are out there buying all the toilet paper. It is not a digestive system virus. It's a respiratory virus. I'm only concerned that people won't leave enough TP for the older folks who can't just break off and go and pick it up for themselves. We have to think about the seniors. We think about the kids all the time. We think about our seniors, and this thing is so new that we have to kind of pay an extra focus. You know, it's new. You got to really vet your information. I would say diversify your information. You know, I do read quite a bit, and I don't sit and listen to talking heads tell me, oh, this is being put here because of this and this and this political thing and season. Look around. Look around, be smart. And you're trying to prepare for life, not trying to freak out. I've been trying to say this to you. Oh, Lord, this is something else. And, you know, I get it, man. This is the intersection of life and amateur radio, and this thing is being talked about by everyone. And I was thinking, you know, I'm on the fence. A week ago, I'm thinking everybody is just tired of this. Now I'm starting to think like everybody should probably be or have a way to talk. Are you scared? You know what I mean? Are you scared? Are you fearful? Are you listening to my show thinking that like it's the end of days? What are you going to do? Do you not have anyone to talk to? I'd say check us out on the Sunday Evening Net because it's becoming a wellness check-in. You know, I want to hear you and make sure you're feeling all right. I'm not Dr. Phil, but this is a community. The amateur radio community really is, you know, there's only so many of us. There's quite a few of us, but look, it makes sense for us to check in on each other, make sure we're doing okay, and, you know, get on the radio, man. One thing I was thinking, I turned around, looked at my rig, I was like, I am just so happy that I can do this. I don't want to sit and watch reruns, you know, of my favorite shows or even Love Boat, you know, even though that's cool sometimes. Good Times, Sanford and Son. But I mean, how much TV we're going to do? We're going to have to change ourselves a bit. And sitting inside, you know, pick up a book, man. Maybe if we can get to the bookstore before, or the library, before it closes. All the schools, charter schools, private schools, all the schools in St. Louis closed as of this morning. You know, and we're talking Monday, what are we, the day before St. Patrick's Day. Okay, the 16th, they're closed now through April 3rd. And it's probably wise because, you know, spring break and all this jazz. Employers are having to think about how we're going to pay our people who can work from home, who maybe won't. You know, so I've seen a lot of good come out of this as well. A lot of people who are like the NBA and the athletes who make millions of dollars are helping pay people's salary or their rate, their pay for concession stand workers, people in the parking lot. Think about people who work in restaurant chains. Because, you know, we're not going to be able to eat there for a while. Think about it. Stay in tune, stay focused, but don't panic. Let's do what we have to do now together. You get a little bit of amateur radio sprinkled in. I really do want to tell you what I've been working on out in the field, because when I'm at home, I can still kind of go out and try some things if weather permits. Take a break. We'll come back and we'll definitely talk about what I've been up to next.
This is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Did you know that Nuts and Bolts has the highest readership of magazines specifically written for the electronics community? For over 40 years, Nuts and Bolts magazine has been bringing microcontroller and electronics projects to hobbyists, engineers, technicians, and experimenters around the world. Every issue is full of the latest technology, electronics theory, analog circuit design, robotics, home automation, communications, and more. Join the Nuts and Bolts community and become a member today. You get 2 years of the printed magazine and the online digital edition for only $49.95. You also receive full access to all web content with downloadable PDF files, plus the e-newsletter filled with popular projects from past issues. Go right now to nutsvolts.com to subscribe. That's 2 years of Nuts and Volts magazine printed on paper and delivered to your door for only $49.95. Go to nutsvolts.com today to subscribe. Nuts and Volts magazine. There's more to build with Nuts and Volts.
Back to Net Control with Christian, K0STH.
All right, friends, it is Christian. My call sign is K0STH, and I have been studying emergency communications and developing a new show, which I'll be talking to you about. I don't know. We'll have another special episode because I'm going to need all of you who are interested in communications to join me over there. I'm going to be launching a new show, and I'd love for you to join me. Now, it doesn't mean this one's going to go away. We've been doing this show twice a month, and I'm going to fill the other weeks of the month with an every other kind of presentation. Different amateur radio will be involved in this. I can say it's going to be more of a preparedness podcast or a show, which communications play a big part of. But I think it's timely, and I've been working on this thing since January, and then this COVID-19 hits really hard, and there's sort of there's not a scramble to get things together. There's actually a pause because it's, let's see where we are. Let's see the players who are going to be involved in this with me, where we are, how we're dealing with things, and get some ducks in a row. But I hope to, by the end of the month, launch a new show, and I'd love for you to join me. More on that is coming up soon. But communications would certainly play a part of any good preparedness plan. But this is more of a lifestyle approach, as this is the intersection of amateur radio and our life. The preparedness mindset is a lifestyle, so I'm going to tackle it in a way that we won't have as much doom and gloom, because we're seeing that firsthand right now, where people are freaking out. We don't need to freak out. We've been maybe complacent and comfortable for a long time, but we don't want to freak out. So look for that, and kind of follow this podcast and our social media, because when I launch it, I'd love for you all to come there. It would give me a nice boost as we talk about things related to sustainable living, being independent and prepared. So with that in mind, since about October, when I joined the Aries team locally here in St. Louis, I've been thinking, and I talked to their leadership about HF communications, studying the backbone, or the backup rather, to the backbone, which would be HF. We know the digital modes, we know the 2 meters, the 440 to some extent, and the repeater systems, all that sort of stuff is really the front line. That is the backbone of emergency communications today as amateur radio operators would use it. But I think in terms of, I love HF. I really do. And I kind of really dig simplex too. And I think there are two facets that I want to study more. And so what I've been doing, I talk to leadership. They seem to dig it. There's a small team of maybe 10 to 12 operators within the 60 volunteers who have HF and who are interested in it and studying it and trying to figure out what's happening. It's a slow process, but I feel like we can do this and we can get enough interest to study it. So I've been studying it on my own anyway. And what does that mean? Well, look, if I'm going to be self-quarantined or I need to stay in the house and stay with my family, hurt my feelings. I'm waiting for that day. If I could work from home all the time, I would. And if you have that job to offer me, can you give that to me? I'll interview you over the Zoom. I'll interview you for the show. Actually, we'll just interview each other. I'll put it on the show, and you interview me, I interview you, and then you give me that job where I just work from home. Can we do that? Make that happen for me, and I'll be a happy kid. But what I do, I go out in the field. I'm fortunate enough to have a little bit of space where I live, and I go out in the field, take my kids, they run out there, they take the little dog, and we watch up in the sky so a hawk doesn't come and carry it away. It's a blast. And I've been building HF antennas and trying them out. And yesterday I built one that was so long And I looked at it like, what are you doing? You're putting them up there at 25 feet. And I'm like, well, let me see what it'll do. I'll just check it out. Let me see. I was like, man, what are you going to snap the mast off? I'm ending up cutting this thing on the fly. I ended up cutting it so it would work. It was almost like the Radio Waves Pathfinder that I have for 40 and 20, and I love it. It has a Ballon that's like a 61 to whatever. I don't know. Emmett came up with it. It was his beta, and he gave it to me. I don't know what's going on inside there, man, but I know it's like a high number, 16 or some crazy thing. And it does great on 20 and 40. I'm like, how about 40 and 80? How about I make one of those? And it was tunable. This is the thing I need to get over. I still have a little mental hurdle with tuners because I was taught by some people who are prominent hams. Tuners are bad. For me, I'm not, especially not in emergency communications, but I have still got a little something in my mind that keeps me from, and I just want a resonant antenna. And at 25 feet working on 80 meters or 40, a monoband dipole, maybe. And I'm testing it out. And then I'm testing this off-center fed piece, and it's just like, whoa. I don't know. And I'm looking for something specific. So I have to get in my mind that in an emergency situation, it doesn't give a fuck what. You can tune it. As long as it's not crazy, I'm out there with a 7300, or if you're out there with your tuner, your LDG tuner, click, 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 click. And even if it's like, if it can tune, you're in business. And my 7300 will tune, I think, up until like 10, like a 10 SWR. So when I see a 3, there's something in me that goes, nah, player. But then I'm like, well. So what I do is I go out there and I just put these things up, and I'm testing them at 25 feet. And every time I go out, I've got things in my truck, and I needed this, I needed that. I should maybe change this way of doing it. I find something new. And I'm a working man. I got 2 gigs, I got 2 kids and a wife. If you can figure out a way to just get out there and try it, every time you get out there, you will learn something new about your setup, whether or not you need different tools, you need a different bag for your tools, you need tape. These things, you can compile a list of things you need, but it always will refine, what you're doing. And then you'll augment it and change it. And I've already got a couple of things, and I'm like, ugh. I thought I had it figured out, friends, is the point. I thought I had my situation figured out. And I'm here to tell you, I have to augment it a bit. I've got to change it. And I love it. A little frustrating when the antennas don't work like you want them to, or your success rate is not as good. But I figured out, I think this is what I need to do. This is a stronger situation. My drive over is not as good on grass as it would be on concrete. The thing is doing its own thing up there. Get out there and try it. You may be home more now. For a little while, we're dealing with things here together. Get on the radio if you have a yard, test an antenna, build an antenna, do the work for the job that you get paid to do. Go out and play with your kids. Enjoy your family. Don't sketch out, all right? Read good sources. Diversify your sources of news. Don't let them tell you everything. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And by all means, please try and stay above the noise.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.